guys, it's Rishi once again, and today we're back with angles in parallel lines. Now before I get started, I just wanted to thank everybody for their positive feedback on the videos that we've been releasing. It's been amazing to see the impact that we've been making in these past few months. You guys, I couldn't have done it without you. So once again, thank you very much for all of your support, and let's keep this rolling. So today we're back with angles in parallel lines. Now, what are parallel lines? Now, parallel lines are simply straight lines which have the same direction. So what that means is that they will never meet, just as the lines that I've just drawn here. And the arrowheads show lines that are parallel. Now, a straight line that cuts a pair of parallel lines is called an intersecting transversal. So once again, if I draw my two lines and I have a line that cuts the pair of these parallel lines, this is intersecting transversal. Now, when a pair of parallel lines meets an intersecting transversal, a pair of angles, particular properties are made from that. And now the first that I'm going to go through is corresponding angles. Now, for those who already know this, it's absolutely fine. This is just to strengthen your understanding. But for others, this is a great time for you to learn from here. So we have corresponding angles. Now, corresponding angles is where you can make an F shape. So again, if we take a look, I'll put this in red here. You can simply make an F shape from what I am drawing out. And this is specifically called corresponding angles. And what this means is that the two angles that I've just drawn here are equal to each other. And notice that the F shape can be upside down or even back to front. So again, I can go ahead and in black, draw my F, and I can say that these two angles are very much the same. And again, if I draw another set of parallel lines here, I can go ahead and highlight these two angles as being parallel and being corresponding because we can draw an F letter here. So just to reiterate, the lines make an F shape, and notice that they can be upside down or back to front. And on the other hand, we have alternate angles, and they are also equal. But this time, the lines make a Z shape. So if I go ahead and draw this once more, I'll outline this in red. As you can see here, this is your Z angle there, where the two angles I've highlighted are equal. And I can do this once more. And just as I stated before, that they can also be back to front. And that there is an example of an alternate angle. So we've gone through our corresponding angles, we've gone through alternate angles, but now let's take a look at vertically opposite angles. So now with vertically opposite angles, let's go ahead and draw our parallel lines. And one thing to note here is that they are directly opposite each other. As you can see here, it could either be what I've drawn in red here on this part, and the lines here make an X shape. And that is where we have an X as a cross. And there's many other ways I could do this. So let's draw two parallel lines here. And you can see we've got another section here where we have a cross, which is the opposite direction on any aspect here. And there we are. So I hope you can see how we have different letters working for different angles. So again, we've got an X angle for the vertically opposite. We then have our Z angle for alternate and F angle for our corresponding. And then finally, we have our co-interior angles. And that again is our C shape. So let's go ahead and draw out two pairs of parallel lines and two lines which have our intersecting transversal. So now with our C shape, these co-interior angles add up to 180 degrees. So how are we going to create our C shape? Well, we can either have it on the left or we can have it on our right. And this is where the two angles within this section add up to 180. And these are the main rules that you need to remember when answering the following questions within this topic. So I hope that was clear. Let's now go ahead and jump directly into question 1. So AB and CD are parallel lines, and we need to work out the size of angle X. So with that in mind, we can simply see that we can make a cross with this. And by doing so, that is our vertically opposite. So we know X is also going to be 53 degrees. And the reason is that they are vertically opposite angles. And then we need to write down the size of angle Y and also give a reason for that. So we now know that in terms of angle Y, we can make another letter from this, and that would be the letter F. And that would be our upside down F. So if X is 53 degrees, then Y also has to be 53 degrees. And you can either choose to do this the corresponding angle way, or alternatively, we can go ahead, we can say that this is an example of an alternate angle. And that is because we can simply draw our Z shape here, which then matches with the 53 degrees. So we can use more than one way, either our corresponding angle or our alternate angle. But I'll go ahead and write down that it's also 53 degrees, and that is due to an alternate angle. Marvelous work. Question 2. So now AB and CD are parallel lines, and an angle of 110 degrees is shown on the diagram. So write down the letter of one other angle of size 110 degrees. So now we could simply go ahead with B, because that is vertically opposite. Or alternatively, we can go with F. So B would be on the basis of it being vertically opposite, which is your X angle. Or F could be on the basis that it is a corresponding angle. And that there would be your F angle. So let's go ahead with F. And let's note down that it's a corresponding angle. Marvelous work. Question number 3. So again, we've got two parallel lines and we need to work out the value of the angle X. So what can we do here? So the first thing we understand is that this is a co-interior angle. And we know that 32 degrees and X must equal to 180 degrees. So we'll have 180 minus 32, which gives us 148. So we now know that X equals 148 degrees. And that there will be co-interior angles. And if you didn't get this answer, you could then also state that it could either be a corresponding or an alternate angle, depending upon the letter that you've created. So you can see here, let's go for our corresponding angle, which is our F angle. You can then see that we can make an F directly here. Or if we want to go with an alternate angle, we need to make a Z. And that again would be coming down here and to here. So we know that if the top is 32, then the bottom is also 32. And because it's on a straight line, we know that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So we would have 180, take away 32, which will give us 148. So that being said, we can also note down corresponding and alternate. Marvelous. Okay, let's go for question 4. So now we've been given a parallelogram, and we know that CBE is a straight line. And they have given us two angles, and we need to find the size of angle BAE. So that's B to A and A to E, and that's the angle we need to find. So the first thing we need to do is identify which type of angle we can use. So the first thing we can identify is that angle ABE is 128 degrees. And the way I've done that is by simply getting my Z shape here. So I know that angle A to B to E is 128 degrees as it is alternate. And then with that, we know that we have a triangle and it all adds up to 180 degrees. So I'll have 128 plus 39, which gives me 167. And if I have 180 minus 167, that gives me 13. So now I know x equals 13 degrees. And that there would be that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Marvelous work. Okay, question number 5. So AB and CD are parallel lines, and we know that because of these two arrows here. We've also been given an isosceles triangle, and we can tell that because of the two lines that we have in this section here. And we know that angle AEG is 110 degrees. So let's find the value of the angle FGD. So that's again F to G and G to D, which is this section here. And let's label it X. So the first thing we can see here is that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So I know 180 minus 110 gives me 70. So I know that angle E is 70. And because it's an isosceles, angle F is also 70. And on that basis, I'll have 70 and 70, which gives me 140 degrees. And 180 minus 140 gives me 40 degrees. So now I know that the middle section of G is 40 degrees. So that's the first step I've taken. So the second step here is to find whether it's an alternate angle, a corresponding, co-interior, or vertically opposite. Well, the first thing I see is that we can draw a Z angle. And that is again just from this section here. So I know that if F angle is 70, then X should also be 70. So now I know that FGD equals 70 degrees. So now let's write down our reasoning. So our main reasoning here is that angles at the base of an isosceles triangle are equal. And the second point here is that alternate angles are equal. And there we are. So now we know that FGD is 70 degrees. Beautiful work. So feel free to pause the video at any given time, attempt the question, and then press play. Now, I hope the introduction was useful. If you still feel that you need to go through the angles again, skip to the beginning of the video where I then explained what the F angle was, the Z angle, the X, and angle C. Repetition is key, as I mentioned in every video, so keep it up. Okay, question number 6. We've now been given AB and CD, which are parallel, and we've been given two angles, where angle HIK is 85 degrees. So H to I to K is 85 degrees. And how did I calculate that? I went from H all the way down to I, and then from I went all the way down to K. So now I know it's 85 degrees. And angle BFH is 32 degrees. So again, I go to B, I go down to F, and I go down to H, and I know that's 32 degrees. So I hope you're already identifying all the other angles that we can find with this information. So that being said, we now know that we have to work out the size of the angle FEG. And that's F to E to G. So the first thing we're going to do is find the vertically opposite angle, which is your X angle. And I know that we can make an X here, and we can note down this as 32 degrees. We then know, using our corresponding angles, that 85 degrees can also be replicated on G here. And that is because we can make an F angle. And there we are. The F angle being created, and we've got 85 degrees. So not only have we found an X angle, we have also found an F angle. And now the next point is to consider that straight line angles add up to 180 degrees. So if one is 85 degrees, then the other has to be 95 because it has to add up to 180 degrees. And by saying that, we can then go ahead and calculate 95 plus 32, which then gives us 127. We can then have 180 minus 127, which gives us 53 degrees. And we now know X is 53 degrees. And there we are. So let's now go ahead and see exactly what I've done. Well, the first thing was to work out EFG, and that was 32 degrees as it was vertically opposite. I then went and calculated what FGI was. So I know FGI is 85 degrees, and that is because of corresponding angles. Now I've gone ahead and done that. The third point and the final point. Now I've gone ahead and done that. The third point was to work out FGE, which I know was 95 degrees, as straight angles add up to 180 degrees. And then the final point here was to finally subtract this from 180 degrees. And that again was angle FEG, because we know angles in a triangle add up to 180. And there we are. So now we know that our answer is going to be 53 degrees for angle FEG. Beautiful. So again, this is a prime example of a question where you need to break this down into smaller, more useful steps, and then finally put them together to find your answer. Amazing work. Let's now go over to question number 7. So AB and CD are parallel, and we need to find the size of angle X. And let's also give our reason. So the first thing I'm going to do here is find out the midpoint for F. And the way I'm going to do that is by simply subtracting 48 and 35 from 180 degrees, because angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Once I've done that, I can then go ahead and put 97 as my F angle. Then we go to step 2. And we can understand here that with step 2, we have a co-interior angle. And what does that mean? So co-interior angle means when we have two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So now we know that we'll have 180 minus 120, which gives us 60, and that is angle F. So we have our C angle here, and we've also used angles in a triangle to work out 97. Now for the third and the final step, let's go ahead and have 180 minus 60 minus 97, and that would there give me 23 degrees. So now I know X equals 23 degrees. So let's go through this and give a reason. Right, so step 1, what did we write down? Step 1 was that we need to make angles in a triangle add up to 180. We then had step 2. Step 2 stated that we had co-interior angles. So we now know that co-interior angles also add to 180. And then finally, for our third step, this is where we had angles on a straight line adding up to 180. And there we are. Marvelous work. And let's now dive into our final question. So we've now been faced with a parallelogram. And we have to calculate the size of angle X. So the first thing and the first property that we need to remember is that opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. So that means if C is 124, then A also has to be 124. So that means angle BAD will be 124 minus 63, which gives you 61. So the first step is that opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. So now we know that this is 61 degrees. So step 2. We now need to go ahead and work out the next angle, which is part of angle B. And that there brings me to the point of angle C, which is going to be a co-interior angle. And that is where two angles add up to 180 degrees. So we now have 180 minus 124 and minus 25, which then gives me 31 degrees. So now we know that the second part of angle B is 31 degrees. And that is a C angle, which is co-interior angles. And then for part 3, we can simply go ahead and calculate X by having 180 minus 61 and minus 31 to give us X which will then be 88 degrees. And there we are. We now know that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So we subtracted it away and we've now got 88 degrees. And that there brings us to the end of our session. Once again, you've made it till the end. You've done amazingly well. And this is where we've gone through intersecting and parallel lines. You should now be very comfortable in terms of working out whether two lines intersect, and if they do, finding out whether they are opposite angles, which is your X angle, alternate angles, which is your Z angle, corresponding angles, which is your F angle, or finally co-interior, which is your C angles. Now keep up the great work. Remember, repetition is key. I say this again and again. It's very easy to forget something, but keep up the great work. Don't forget to comment below if you want me to focus on something in particular, or if you want me to dive deeper into this specific topic. And don't forget to subscribe so you are kept up to date whenever we upload a new video. And with that being said, keep up the great work, and I'll see you in the next video.